I always thought family was supposed to be the one thing in life that never turned its back on you. Jobs come and go, money slips through your fingers, friends drift away. But your own blood, your own child, that's supposed to be sacred, unshakable. That's what I believed. Until the day my phone buzzed, and I read the message that tore my entire world apart. It was a quiet Sunday morning in California. I had just poured myself a cup of coffee, the kind of morning where the sun is too bright, almost mocking you with its warmth. My hands ached, reminders of years of construction work. My back hurt, like always. But I had plans that day, plans that gave me strength to push through the pain. You see, my son Daniel had promised we'd spend the afternoon together. Just me, him, and his family. His wife Emily had invited me weeks ago. At least that's what I thought. I even went out of my way to buy little gifts for my grandkids. They loved puzzles, Legos, and the cheap ice cream sandwiches I always brought over. So when my phone buzzed, I expected Daniel to say something like, "Dad, pick up some milk on the way," or "We're starting the grill early, come by sooner." But instead, it was a message that didn't feel real. I read it once, twice, three times. "Dad, you won't be joining us today. Emily prefers to keep it just family." Just family. I stared at the words, my hand trembling so bad I almost dropped the phone. Just family. Like I wasn't family. Like the blood in my veins didn't run through his. I called him immediately, my voice cracking before he even picked up. "Daniel, what is this? What do you mean by just family? I am your family." There was silence on the line, just his breathing. And then his voice, flat like a stranger's. "Dad, Emily feels uncomfortable when you're around. She thinks it's better for the kids if we keep some distance." Uncomfortable? Better for the kids? The words cut deeper than any blade. I had raised that boy. I carried him on my shoulders when he was too tired to walk. I worked 12-hour shifts in the California heat so he could go to college, so he wouldn't have to break his back the way I did. And now, I was being dismissed like some unwanted guest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive straight to their house and demand an explanation. But all I could do was whisper, "Son, please, don't do this to me." He didn't argue. He didn't fight. He just said, "I'm sorry, Dad. It's not my choice." And then he hung up. The silence after that call felt heavier than any noise I had ever heard. I sat there, staring at the gifts I had wrapped for the grandkids. The bright colors, the cartoon wrapping paper, it all mocked me now. Because I knew those kids wouldn't even see them. And that was the moment I realized something. This wasn't just about today. This wasn't about one barbecue. No. This was the beginning of something darker, something permanent. And deep down, I feared the truth. That my son's wife didn't just want distance. She wanted me erased. But why? What had I done so wrong, so unforgivable? That the woman my son loved wanted me out of their lives completely. I thought back through the years, every memory, every interaction with Emily. And then, pieces of the puzzle began to surface. Pieces that made me wonder if this had been her plan all along. What if the people you love most, your own family, slowly start treating you like a guest in your own life? That's exactly what happened to me. And it all began with a single text message. After that night, I couldn't sleep. My son's message kept replaying in my mind like a broken record. "You won't be joining us." My wife prefers to keep it just family. Just family. Wasn't I his family? I raised him. I worked 2 jobs when he was little, so he could have clothes on his back, food on the table, and even the chance to go to college. I was there for every scraped knee, every school play, every heartbreak. And now, my daughter-in-law decided that I didn't count as family, and my own son agreed. The next morning, I stared at my phone for hours, wondering if I should reply. Should I demand an explanation? Should I call him and ask why he was shutting me out of his life? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but every word I typed sounded either too desperate or too angry. Finally, I just wrote, Okay, I understand. Love you, son. I didn't understand, not even close. But I hit send anyway. For days, I lived in silence. My apartment felt smaller than ever. Meals didn't taste right. The only thing that kept me company was the constant replay of memories. Christmas mornings when he would jump out of bed to open presents, birthdays where he'd run into my arms, and the day he graduated high school, looking at me with pride in his eyes. That pride was gone now. A week later, I saw a picture on social media. My son, my daughter-in-law, their kids, smiling around a big table filled with food. It was the very dinner I had been uninvited from. My chest tightened as I zoomed in, studying every detail. There was an empty chair at the end of the table, my chair, the one I usually sat in during family dinners, and they had left it empty, almost like a reminder, almost like they wanted me to see that I didn't belong anymore. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking. Maybe my son was just caught between me and his wife, and he didn't want to cause a fight. Maybe he didn't realize how much his words had cut me. But then, more signs started to appear. Whenever I called, his wife would answer and say, "Oh, he's busy. Can he call you back later?" But he never did. When I tried to FaceTime my grandkids, suddenly their iPad was broken or the Wi-Fi wasn't working. Weeks turned into months, and I realized something terrifying. I was slowly being erased from their lives. And here's the part that hurt the most. My son wasn't fighting for me. He wasn't pushing back. He was letting it happen. One night, I finally got the courage to bring it up. I called him, and by some miracle, he picked up. At first, we talked about small things, work, the weather, his kids' school. But then I asked, "Son, do you not want me around anymore? Be honest with me." There was silence. A silence so long it felt like the air was being sucked out of my lungs. Finally, he said, "Dad, it's not me. It's her. She feels like you're too much, too involved. She wants some space. And honestly, I don't want to cause tension at home." Too much. That's what I was now. Too much. I laughed bitterly, even though my eyes were burning with tears. "So, after everything, I'm just too much?" "Dad, please don't make this harder," he whispered. "I love you, but I have to put my wife first." And just like that, the line went dead. That night, I sat alone in the dark, the words echoing in my head. He has to put his wife first. I wasn't first anymore. I wasn't even second. I was nowhere. But here's where the story takes a turn, because what I discovered next made me question everything I thought I knew about my son's marriage, and why my daughter-in-law really wanted me gone. I thought I was losing my son because of her pride. But the truth was far darker, and it almost destroyed our family forever. I drove to their house that night with a strange mixture of nerves and hope. I told myself, maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe Emma just had a bad day. Maybe my son will smile when he sees me, hug me, and everything will feel normal again. But nothing about that night felt normal. When I arrived, the porch light was on, and I could see shadows moving through the curtains. I rang the doorbell, and after a long pause, Emma opened the door. She didn't smile. She didn't even greet me with warmth. Instead, she stepped aside and said in a flat tone, "Come in." Inside, the house looked perfect. Too perfect, like a stage set. The table was already set with plates and glasses, candles burning faintly. But the air was heavy, almost tense, as if everyone was rehearsing a script. My son Daniel came down the stairs. He wasn't smiling. He didn't hug me like he usually did. Instead, he gave me a brief nod. That nod cut deeper than a knife. I wanted to shake him and ask, "What happened to us?" But I stayed quiet. We sat at the table. Emma served the food, lasagna, Daniel's favorite. She placed a plate in front of me, but the gesture felt mechanical. Throughout dinner, there was almost no conversation. Daniel asked Emma about her day. She gave short answers, and then silence. It was as if I wasn't even there. So I tried. I asked Daniel about work. He gave me one-word replies. I asked Emma about the house renovations. She shrugged. Every attempt at small talk hit a wall. And then it happened. At one point, Emma reached across the table to pour Daniel more wine. As she did, their eyes locked for just a second too long. It wasn't the gaze of a daughter-in-law to a father-in-law's son. It was intimate, familiar. I froze. I wanted to believe I imagined it. But the way Daniel's lips curved into a subtle smile, the way Emma blushed and quickly looked down, my chest tightened. I put down my fork and said, "What's going on here?" They both looked at me. Daniel's expression hardened instantly. Emma's face went pale. "What do you mean?" Daniel asked sharply. "You know exactly what I mean," I said, my voice trembling. "The way you two look at each other, it's not normal." The silence that followed was suffocating. Emma bit her lip. Daniel's jaw tightened. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Emma stood up abruptly and said, "I'm going to clear the table." She grabbed her plate and rushed to the kitchen. Daniel leaned forward, his voice low and cold. "Dad, you're imagining things. Don't ruin this family with your paranoia." My heart dropped. He was defensive. Not shocked, not offended, just defensive. I stared at him and whispered, "Tell me the truth." He didn't answer. Emma never came back to the table. After a few more minutes of silence, Daniel muttered something about me needing rest and practically pushed me out the door. That night, I drove home in a daze. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel. I could still see the look they shared, the blush on Emma's face, the strange coldness in Daniel's voice. And then around midnight, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it. The text read, "If you want to know what's really happening between Emma and Daniel, meet me tomorrow at 3 p.m. downtown cafe. Don't tell them. No name, no explanation. Just that." I barely slept that night. My mind was spinning with questions. Who was this person? A neighbor? A friend? Someone close to them? And most importantly, what exactly were they about to reveal to me? The next day, I sat in that cafe, staring at the door, waiting. Every time the bell rang, my heart skipped a beat. Until finally, a woman walked in. And when I saw who it was, my entire world tilted upside down. Who was the mysterious woman at the cafe? And what truth was she about to reveal that would completely destroy the fragile illusion of family I was still holding on to? When I drove home from that restaurant, the words kept replaying in my head. Maybe you don't belong in their new life. My chest tightened. And for the first time in years, I cried alone in my car. Not silent tears, ugly, gasping sobs that blurred the road. I parked 2 blocks away from my house because I couldn't face the thought of walking inside with that pain written all over my face. For days afterward, I tried to distract myself with small routines: watering the lawn, fixing that leaky faucet, making coffee in the mornings. But every ordinary action reminded me of what I'd lost. The sound of the kettle whistling brought back memories of when my son used to come downstairs sleepy-eyed, asking me to pour him a cup even though he was too young. But now I wasn't even invited into his life anymore. I thought maybe I was overreacting, so I texted my son again. I wrote, "I'm sorry if I upset you. Can we talk? I just want to understand what's happening." No response. A day passed, 2, then 3. Finally, late at night, a message appeared on my screen. My heart raced when I saw his name pop up. I tapped it open immediately. It said, "Dad, please stop pushing. It's better this way. You'll only cause problems if you keep trying. Please respect my wife's wishes." I stared at those words for what felt like hours. Better this way? Better for who? Not for me. Not for the man who raised him, taught him how to ride a bike, worked overtime to buy him his first car. Not for the man who sat up all night in the hospital when he had pneumonia at 10 years old. And not for him either. He just couldn't see it yet. That night, I didn't sleep. My thoughts spiraled into dark places. What had his wife told him about me? What lies had she spun to make him believe I was harmful, unwelcome? Had she painted me as some kind of burden? The anger began to boil beneath the sadness. I couldn't accept this version of reality. So, I made a decision. I was going to their house. The next morning, I drove across town with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. My plan was unclear. I didn't know if I'd knock on the door, if I'd plead with him face to face, or if I'd just stand outside until he came out. But I had to see him. I had to hear from his own lips why he was cutting me off. When I pulled into their street, I slowed down. My son's car was in the driveway. There were toys scattered across the front yard, my grandson's toys. A plastic truck lay overturned in the grass. My throat tightened. I almost parked. But then I saw her, his wife, standing in the doorway, arms crossed, staring at me like I was trespassing on forbidden ground. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She didn't even hide her contempt. She just shook her head slowly, as if warning me, "Don't you dare step out of that car." And then my son appeared behind her. For a brief, shining moment, our eyes met. I saw hesitation in his face, maybe even guilt. I raised my hand in a small wave, hopeful, desperate. But he didn't wave back. He placed his hand gently on his wife's shoulder, leaned down, and whispered something to her. Then he closed the door. Just like that. I sat in the car, frozen, staring at the house. My own son had chosen to close me out, not just through words or texts, but physically, deliberately. The humiliation hit harder than anything I'd ever felt. I started the engine and drove away before the neighbors could see the pathetic old man parked outside, begging silently for scraps of his own family. On the way home, I made a vow. This wasn't the end. If my son thought he could erase me from his life because of her, he was wrong. If his wife thought she could rewrite our history and cut me out of my grandson's childhood, she had another thing coming. I wasn't done fighting, not by a long shot. What exactly did his wife whisper to him at the door? Why is she so determined to keep him away from me? And how far am I willing to go to fight for my son and my grandson? I didn't sleep at all that night. The hotel room felt like a cage. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying every single moment of the last few weeks in my mind. The text message, the silence from my son, the whispered conversation at the door, the family dinner I was excluded from. Morning came, but it didn't feel like a new day. It felt like the same nightmare, refusing to end. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, staring at my son's name on the screen. My thumb hovered over the call button, but I couldn't bring myself to press it. What if he didn't answer again? What if he blocked me altogether? But then I thought, no, enough hiding, enough silence. If he won't let me in, then I'll go to him. I got dressed, checked out of the hotel, and drove straight to his house. My heart was pounding as I parked across the street. From the window, I could see movement inside. My son's silhouette walking back and forth in the kitchen. My daughter-in-law at the table, scrolling on her phone. For a moment, I felt like an intruder in my own family. I walked up to the door, every step heavier than the last. When I knocked, there was silence. Then, footsteps. The door opened. It was my son. He looked tired, angry, guarded. "Dad," he said flatly. "Son," I started, my voice trembling. "Please. Just let me explain. I need to know why you're shutting me out. Why I'm being treated like I don't exist. I love you. I've always loved you." He crossed his arms, jaw tight. "This isn't about love, Dad. This is about respect. You've crossed lines. You've said things to Emily that I said things?" I interrupted. "What things? Tell me what I supposedly said." Emily appeared behind him, her face pale but defiant. "You told me, last Christmas, you told me I wasn't good enough for him, that I'd never replace his mother." I blinked, stunned. "What? That's not true. I would never say that." But she looked me dead in the eyes. "You did." My son's eyes were filled with hurt. "Dad, she wouldn't lie about something like this. She's my wife. I have to protect her." I felt my chest tighten. "Protect her? From me? I'm your father. I've been there for you through everything. Why would I want to hurt the woman you love? Why would I want to drive a wedge between us?" Silence. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then I realized something. The way Emily avoided my gaze, the way her voice cracked when she repeated her claim. She wasn't telling the truth. I took a deep breath. Emily, whatever this is about, I forgive you. But please don't use lies to erase me from my son's life. Don't turn him against me. He deserves both of us in his corner. My son glanced at her. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. Emily? He asked quietly. She shifted uncomfortably. I I thought maybe I misunderstood. Maybe he didn't mean it that way. The air changed instantly. My son turned to me, confusion all over his face. Dad, is that true? You didn't say that? I shook my head. No, son. I only ever wanted to see you happy. I may have been clumsy with my words in the past, but I never tried to sabotage your marriage. Never. He stared at me for what felt like forever. Then, finally, his shoulders sagged. He opened the door wider. Come inside. That single sentence. It broke me. Relief flooded my chest, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I hadn't lost him forever. We sat down. We talked. Really talked. For the first time in months. There were tears. There were apologies. There were still wounds that would take time to heal. But as I left that day, my son hugged me. And not the polite, quick hug he'd been giving me lately. A real hug. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something. Family can be broken in an instant by lies, pride, or misunderstandings. But it can also be repaired, slowly, painfully, and with effort. And for me, that effort will never end, because he's my son. And no matter what happens, I'll never stop fighting for him. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you forgive, or would you walk away? Let me know in the comments below, because this isn't just my story. It's a story about every parent who's ever been forced to fight for their child's love.